Welcome to the brand new Zach Lowe Show. That's right, I'm back to have the same in-depth NBA conversations you're used to. We're going to talk about the games. Yeah, the games, the X's and O's, the drama, the trades, the playoffs are coming up. And now you get to see every episode in full on video on Spotify and on my own YouTube channel. Episodes drop every Monday and Thursday with a collection of guests you're going to love. So make sure you follow and subscribe to the brand new Zach Lowe Show on Spotify or wherever you watch or listen to your podcast. Let's go!
Welcome to the Ringer NFL Draft Show. My name is Danny Heifetz and I am joined by Danny Kelly and Craig Horlbeck. And today we are going over what every team in the NFL Draft needs in the AFC. No, every team in the AFC needs in the NFL Draft.
Yeah.
We're going to keep that in. It's fine. Doesn't matter. We're going through what every team in the AFC needs, and we're doing it a very specific way. Let's see how many sentences I can string together now without messing it up. We're doing it every team in terms of how far they away from being the Philadelphia Eagles, because the Philadelphia Eagles just rocked everyone's world, and late at night and all these draft boards, their teams are like, you know what? We could be the Eagles. So we're actually just going to rank all the teams from how far away they are from the Eagles, right, DK?
Yeah, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon style, basically. And we're doing degrees on this show, aren't we? Are we getting rid of the point system?
The last episode,
I've come around on the point system.
God, no.
I think it makes sense.
Craig.
Also, somebody tweeted us or emailed us Kevin Bacon from Philadelphia.
No way!
Yeah,
dude,
perfect.
That's classic Kevin Bacon. Well, Craig, will you explain the degrees point system since you've come around?
Well, sure.
I think you don't want to.
I actually already don't get it. A degree equals a point. We're going to add up all the position groups on the team, and if it can either be a point if they're set, a half point if the position group is okay, and 0 points if the position group is a disaster.
Yeah, with the premise being that everyone wants to be the Eagles. All right, cool. We'll get a Jalen Hurts and get like a skill group that has Saquon and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and the best offensive line and the best defensive line and a great secondary linebacker group, and also have the best GM and like the best coordinators. And so it's like,
and also Sirianni.
And Nick Sirianni is also there.
And whatever Nick Sirianni is.
Yeah, whatever Nick Sirianni is doing. So how close are you just having the best of the thing? And wow, a lot of teams far away. So we did this with the NFC in the previous episode, and we're going to go through, and I'm going to go through the team needs, and DK is going to give like some players that make sense for these teams based on where they're picking and what they need. DK's big board is at nfldraft.theringer.com. So are my team needs. You can check out what you think your team needs there at nfldraft.theringer.com. I want to, and also later we got some emails. We got IPAs and a lie, because that was inspiring.
I can't wait for that.
Two IPAs and a Navy call sign? Is that what we're doing?
Is that
it's just 2 IPAs and a lie.
That
I
sounds.
thought we were doing 2 IPAs and a real Navy call sign.
Make that the next one. Emails at ringerfantasyfootball@gmail.com for 2 IPAs and a Navy call sign. I like the
Either
sound
way,
of that.
it works.
I like that. Okay, so we're going to go through, and again, these are teams that are 6 degrees. How far away are you from the Philadelphia Eagles?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to start with the Kansas City Chiefs, which feels wrong because they got the shit kicked out of them, but they're the reason we're doing this whole thing. So I kind of wanted to start with the Chiefs, to be honest.
For a team that made the Super Bowl, they feel very far away from the Philadelphia Eagles.
Putting the Chiefs 1 degree away felt ridiculous, but I'm
They
kind of
were
leaning
one
with
game
them.
away from a 3-peat. What are we talking about? Of course
Well, I know, but I keep going back and forth between like, what if they had just won that game? They're the best team ever, but they lost. So anyway, I wanted to just revisit a couple stats from this game, just to revisit how badly the Chiefs lost this game. In the first half of the Super Bowl, the Eagles had more points than the Chiefs had yards.
That's tough.
In the first half, the Chiefs averaged 29 inches per play. And in the
More
first
than
half,
enough. That seems like a lot, depending on the context.
I mean, Mahomes had 33 passing yards to the Chiefs in the first half and 38 passing yards to the Eagles.
Ugh.
And the tectonic plate, and the reason I'm reading all these stats, is that cutting it off arbitrarily in the third quarter when it was like 40-0. When the Chiefs were facing a 4-man pass rush from the Eagles, across the season, they allowed a 14% pressure rate. So if you rush 4 defenders versus 5 offensive linemen, the Chiefs allowed a pressure about 1 out of every 6 times. In the Super Bowl, it was more than half.
Just a buzzsaw. The Eagles are an absolute buzzsaw.
So all that's to say, obviously, the Chiefs need the offensive line, and I would argue defensive line too. And I just wanted to DK, I wanted to talk to you about what the hell the Chiefs' plan is going to be at offensive line, because I'm blown away that the Chiefs' plan entering this offseason, because they traded away Joe Thuney, who was their left tackle, left guard last season. The Chiefs' plan right now for the blind side of Patrick Mahomes is a left tackle who was the backup in San Francisco. So a left tackle that's never started 6 games in a season. And then the left guard's going to be Kingsley Suamataia, who's never played guard before. Mm-hmm. That's their plan right now.
Is there an arrogance to that? Because what was their option? To give Dan Moore $50 million? I guess trade for Laramie Tunsil? What really was their best course of action here other than make a move like this, bet on a guy that you think might be better than anybody else thinks, and then you go after another tackle in the draft?
I would have thought about Laramie Tunsil. It's easier said than done, but I mean, would you rather... I mean, Jalen Moore got $15 million a year from them, and again, he's a backup. He hasn't started more than 5 games. He's a 5th-round pick 3 years ago.
But so would you have been happier if they gave Dan Moore $50 million?
I understand the Tunsil trade was rich, but I guess I'm saying, looking at the draft, where I'm like, I know that they're not necessarily done, but they have to come out of this draft with an offensive lineman that might be able to play.
Yeah.
I mean, long-term, obviously, but I also kind of think you want someone this year. But DK, the Chiefs are picking 31st.
Mm-hmm.
What is a realistic offensive lineman the Chiefs could get at the 31st pick?
Well, it just depends on how far a guy like Josh Simmons potentially falls, because he's coming off of a major knee injury. There's a slight chance he could be there at that point just because he had a pretty major knee injury. I think Josh Carnley from Oregon is a realistic option there.
Who would you want if you were the Chiefs GM and you got to pick your perfect scenario of a guy falling to 31? Who is the guy you want to fall to 31?
Out of those two, or out of everyone?
Out of everyone.
I mean, my highest ranked tackle, which would
no, all right, come on.
What are we talking about? I mean, it would be great, I think, if Simmons fell to them, of course, because I think he is a top 15 talent, but there's just a question of whether he will go that high because he's coming off an injury, just doesn't have a ton of experience. So I think I would pick him. I think Josh Carnley is also a really good option. He plays with light feet, got some power. He's a former 5-star guy. I think there's a ton of potential, a ton of upside there. So I think those are the two that I'm looking at. I think there's a slight chance Kelvin Banks falls. It's kind of weird because tackles usually don't fall. But I feel like this is kind of a weird draft. There's a lot of edge guys. There's a lot of offensive linemen. The order that these offensive linemen go probably isn't what we think it's going to be. So Kelvin Banks from Texas, I guess, is another potential option there. But I think just overall, talking about what you guys were, discussing with the Chiefs, this just kind of feels to me like par for the course for the Chiefs because they've had Mahomes. They feel that they can kind of like cobble together like an offensive line and kind of get away with it over the years.
There's an arrogance to what they're doing, it feels like. But also, I feel like good teams don't overpay for mediocre players. So to me, it would have felt weird if the Chiefs gave Dan Moore $50 million or overspent on a Laramie Tunsil maybe. And it feels like the arrogance of them kind of being in the mix every year is like, all right, we get Jalen Moore. If it doesn't work out, he's a swing tackle. We feel like we can get somebody in the draft who we can make work. And that's their mindset going into this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're right, Craig. I guess I should probably tweak it to be curious, not judgmental. You hate when I quote Ted Lasso, but I guess it's less.
I didn't even know that was Ted Lasso.
Well, that's why I have to remind you to bring it up. But I guess it's less. That's a bad plan, and more. If it was August, this plan is not good enough.
Yeah,
you can't just count on Kingsley again. Kingsley Suamataia started 3 games for the Chiefs last year, got benched twice. So now they're going to move him to guard. I'm not sure if he's ever played guard at any level. So and you don't want to force that pick. But yeah, and they also need defensive line too. So to DK's point, if the offensive linemen are gone, they could take a defensive tackle. So they need a lot of help. I mean, other than Chris Jones and George Karlaftis, the Chiefs don't have defensive linemen that can win one-on-one right now.
Can I ask a really stupid 3 a.m. we're drunk at the bar hypothetical question?
Please.
Would you trade Patrick Mahomes to the Eagles for the entire Eagles roster?
That's a sick question. Okay.
If you're Andy Reid, Brett Veach, would you take the entire Eagles roster for Patrick Mahomes?
Do you get Jalen Hurts is included?
You get everybody on the Eagles. Anyone you want, essentially. You can pick as many Eagles as you want for Patrick Mahomes.
I wouldn't. Because it's stupid, first of all. And number two.
No, it's an amazing question.
Craig, they're one game away from a 3-peat. What are we doing here?
DK,
Stop this shit.
It's 3 a.m. We've had 12 fuck your mother IPAs, and we're having a fun hypothetical conversation.
We've had 4 Iceman IPAs. Yeah.
Yeah. What do we think?
No.
You can have as many Eagles as you want.
They were one game away from a 3-peat.
Okay. I just want to put it out there.
Yeah.
I can see it. I don't think you should, but It's a team game.
Yeah, have one more like torn meniscus double IPA, and you'll kind of.
I was gonna say, because here's the thing: if Mahomes gets hurt, then you're like, damn, could have just been the Eagles.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. Would Eagles fans trade the entire team for Patrick Mahomes? I think to the Bill Simmons rule of who says no faster, they both say no really quickly. But
which makes things that means Patrick Mahomes is not worth any amount of players in the league.
That's probably like a good sell high on Mahomes. It's probably a good sell high. I'll just take the entire Super Bowl team.
Okay.
The only other thing I want to note with the Chiefs, DK, I'm curious if you let's say they take a tackle. I'm curious what running back you think would match with them. You can pick around whatever, but I just want to point out again, not to overdo the Super Bowl, but Isaiah Pacheco had 1 rushing yard at halftime, and Kareem Hunt had 2. This is probably one of the 4 worst backfields in the league, right there with the Raiders and Dallas. What is like a running back pairing you want within reason?
I mean, I've always liked Travion Henderson with the Chiefs just because of how good he is in the passing game, how explosive he is. The big play potential. I think you can find a suitable like early down runner, kind of like Pacheco was like later in the draft. Like they found him. I think he was a 7th rounder or an undrafted free agent. Guy that's just going to run really hard and break tackles. You can find that guy, but Travion Henderson is so he's so good in pass pro, so good in the passing game, really good in the screen game. I just think he would add an element to that offense. And Andy Reid has always been good at getting the running backs involved in the passing game. So I just think that type of guy would fit perfectly.
Okay. Another team that's 1 degree away from the Philadelphia Eagles in our Kevin Bacon game here. I have the Buffalo Bills, who probably are actually closer to the Chiefs, but I wanted to start with the Chiefs because they got crushed. But the Bills, again, I think they're 1 degree away, and I look at it as, you could quibble with the receivers, but they're one of the few teams that doesn't really need to add to the offensive line. I look at the Bills' needs in terms of this draft as they actually have a very similar situation at edge rusher and defensive tackle and cornerback, which is at all 3 positions. They have a guy who's an awesome veteran in his prime, signed to a long-term contract, and another guy who's like an old veteran stopgap on a 1-year deal. And so like edge rusher, they have Greg Rousseau, but they also have Joey Bosa, who is on a 1-year deal and like going to get hurt at some point. Defensive tackle, they have Ed Oliver, but then they have like Daquan Jones, who's like 33. Cornerback, they have Christian Benford, who they just signed and is amazing. And then you have like Dane Jackson, who's just on a 1-year deal. So I think they are in a best player available situation, but at defensive tackle or cornerback or edge rusher, which is a good spot. DK, who do you think would probably be the best fit for the Bills?
I mean, there's so many edge guys near the end of the second or near the end of the first, and also in the end of the second round. So they have 2 second-round picks and a first-round pick. I think it's going to be really interesting to see kind of like what the combination they do here, whether it's like a corner in the first, an edge in the second, or an edge in the first, a corner in the second. I think there's a lot of different scenarios that they could do there. I was just kind of looking at their second rounder, guys like Nick Scorton from Texas A&M, Princely Uman-Milan from Ole Miss kind of intrigued me there in that second round, the middle of second round range. And then Siobhan Ravel from East Carolina is another guy that he's coming off an injury, but really tall, really long, extremely explosive athlete. But just again, coming off of a season-ending knee injury. And then the other corner that I had in mind there that kind of just like super feisty, kind of can play inside or outside, Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky. So that was just kind of looking at that second round area where they've got, didn't they have 2 second rounders? Yeah, 56 and 62. So that's a spot where they could probably find 2 starters.
And the receiver core it's weird for a team that took a first round pick at receiver last year in Keon Coleman, where you're like, Bills kind of still need a receiver though.
It feels like they're one guy away on offense and defense from winning the Super Bowl. Feels like it's like they have a lot of great pieces. They need like 1 stud on offense and 1 more stud on defense. I mean, the receivers, they lost Matt Collins. Amari Cooper's a free agent. So it's like, they brought in Josh Palmer, my guy. So, but it's like you have Khalil Shakir, you have Josh Palmer, you have Keon Coleman, the 2 tight ends, Kincaid hasn't really worked out. You have a running back in James Cook. It's like, do you guys think that there is a missing piece on offense, or do you think it's okay?
I think there's a missing piece. I mean, I think they don't have a true number 1.
But do you think that matters?
I think it does matter. I mean, they were probably more dangerous when they had Diggs, right?
Yeah. I mean,
you say so?
Offensively, I think you would say it's probably similar in what they've done each year. But
they're kind of doing what the Chiefs did, I think, a little bit. In they have a superhero quarterback, so they don't feel the need to have...
the whole is greater than the sum of its parts type of thing.
Right.
I think the Bills, it's a cliche at this point to say, the pass catchers are kind of like a basketball team. But the Bills are like a really well-built basketball team where everyone's the guys like diving for rebounds and like, getting like hustle boards and stuff. But the Bills, I think the real question is, but who gets the bucket at the end of the game?
It's like 3rd and 10. Who's your guy?
I think they want Keon Coleman to be that guy.
Well, I would like Keon Coleman to be that guy too. And I think that the Bills are at the end of the day, how many times have we talked about draft? Like you kind of look back at all the teams that were Super Bowl champions. You're like, oh, they hit a couple drafts. And I think the difference in the Bills making it or not is just they're swung and missed in Ka'ir Elam, the cornerback. And Dalton Kincaid has obviously not become what they wanted it to be at tight end. And then Keon Coleman. And it's like, if you miss those 3 picks, if Keon Coleman doesn't actually become at least the number 2 receiver, there needs to be reliable. We'll see. I mean, year 1, year 2.
Yeah,
is it over for Dalton Kincaid? I mean, sometimes tight ends take a while to develop. He's only going into year 3 right now.
I was going to say, we're not giving up on Kincaid, but at the end of the day, I think that was a pick where they had more hope that he would help immediately in a way that just tight ends it's kind of silly to bank on them helping immediately. So we'll see. But also, if you're like a receiver tight end and you can't block, then you're just kind of a receiver. And I think that they talked themselves into a whole way of playing football. Anyway, another team the only other team I think in the AFC that's 1 degree away is the Ravens. Similar to the Bills.
Surprised they're this low on the list, I guess.
What's up?
Well, they're not that low.
They're in the 1 degree away bucket.
I know. I would have mentioned them probably first, but that's okay.
Well, I would have too, but they didn't lose to the Eagles in the Super Bowl, so I mentioned them third. They also didn't make the conference title game. They lost to the Bills. Yeah. They lost to the Bills, so I argue they're perfectly ranked.
You fact-checked me, and it's fine. I agree.
That's rare. That's rare these days. You hear that from somebody on a microphone.
It's just short-term pain for long-term gain. But the Ravens need a left guard, but honestly, everything else it's similar to the Bills to me. It's just best player on defense. Like Ravens could use pass rushers to defensive tackles or a cornerback or a safety. And they need a lot of secondary help, but honestly, the Ravens could do whatever. So it's weird for me to be like, pick a player, DK, but I'm going to make you pick a cornerback because a lot of teams, I think, really need a defensive lineman. And I'm curious who you think if the Ravens are every year, it's like, oh my God, how do we let this guy go to the Ravens? Who is the guy this year that you're going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe we let this guy go to the Ravens?
Wait, you want me to pick a corner or just any player?
Any player. It doesn't have to be cornerback. Just the guy where you're like, oh my God, how do we let that happen?
But Heifetz would like it to be a cornerback.
I would prefer it's not like a must.
So if you could find a cornerback.
Azariah Thomas from Florida State kind of, I think, maybe fits the mold of their type of guy in terms of just length, athleticism, ball skills. Trey Amos from Ole Miss, another guy that I really like. I think he's risen a lot lately. And then Derek Harmon was a guy that I kind of had circled here, a defensive tackle out of Oregon, who was one of the most disruptive interior defensive linemen in college football last year. He's big, long, like 6'4", 6'5", shoots gaps, good athlete. I think he's really interesting for them as well. And he's the type of guy who, you look back in a few years and you're like, oh, how did a really good athlete who's 6'5" with really long arms fall that far?
I've seen mock drafts where Derek Harmon goes to the Ravens, and I don't understand why Derek Harmon isn't a top 20 pick.
I think it's a little bit like he's a bit of a one-year guy in terms of he went to Oregon and then really broke out. But I don't know. I really like him, though.
Do you guys think they need to address the offense a little bit here, specifically in the skill position group? Pass catchers is what I'm really getting at. The last 2 seasons have basically the last 2 seasons have basically ended because of bonehead plays from their pass catchers. Right. It was Zay Flowers fumbling into the end zone and Mark Andrews. And so this is like year 7 of Lamar Jackson, and has he ever had an above average pass catching crew? This year he's now going to have once again Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely. He's going to have Zay Flowers and like the Rashad Bateman, and then the veteran they always bring in. A couple years ago it was Odell Beckham. Now it's DeAndre Hopkins. Like, don't you think they need somebody else who is reliable when the game is on the line?
In a perfect world, sure, but like with one of their first 2 picks, I think it'd be a mistake because at the end of the day, Zay Flowers is a first-round pick, and Rashad Bateman was a first-round pick. And I will say, I think Rashad Bateman actually played better toward the end of last season than he had played in a long time. So if Bateman's trending up, and that was a guy you took, I mean, they both were taken in the 20s.
They also took Hollywood Brown in the first round a couple of years back.
Yeah, like they've tried.
They've tried. It's just kind of funny how it hasn't really ever worked out for them. Not to say that they won't try again, but...
And they have Derrick Henry. I don't think this is a team that needs offense. I think they probably need offensive line depth. But I look at the Ravens and I'm like, I think they need defense because honestly, the defense was bad in the first half of the season. It only turned around because Ardarius Washington, who's like 5'9", got moved to like strong safety. So Kyle Hamilton could play free safety, but the Ravens, I mean, they lost 4 cornerbacks And the Ravens have a motto that's like, you can never have enough cornerbacks. So
Washington is 5'8", 180.
5'8", 180. He's playing strong safety like that. And it was kind of an accident, like that it ended up happening. So I think defensive back, they don't have first round picks just floating around like they do.
The other guy that I circled for them is Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama, who's just an absolute unit. Just moves dudes. He was one of the worst testers at the combine, so he might fall out of the first round. There's a chance he does, but I think from everything you heard, and Todd McShay was talking about this on his podcast too. Everybody was absolutely just blown away by Tyler Booker at the combine in terms of the interviews. This is so I don't know what to make of the combine because he tested really, really poorly, but he blew everyone away.
Do you think he was prepping for the interviews and not the,
maybe? It's like I didn't have time to work out, but he was like one of the worst testers of all the linemen, and that's obviously like a low bar.
If you were like a really good guard, wouldn't part of you want to blow the testing and just go to like 5 good teams that could win the Super Bowl, like the Ravens, and be like, yeah, I'll just blow it and like, can I play for you guys?
You got to thread the needle though, because then if you blow it and you fall out of the first round, and then you're like back to the beginning in the early second, then you could go to a shitty team.
Kind of like Orlando Brown did.
Do you think he knew that physically he wasn't, as gifted as the other guys, so he really focused on like just having the killer personality?
Yeah,
he's really funny.
Yeah. Fun and itch. 5'5", 40, but man, that guy's got some jigs.
Man, that guy's a vibe.
All right, teams that are 2 degrees away. I have the Texans here.
Mm-hmm.
Texans, I mean, they need offense. Everything around Stroud. I think the defense played awesome. We saw that versus the Chiefs and the Chargers in the playoffs. But the offense, I mean, the offensive league basically blew up their offensive line. D'Amico Ryans is out here. There's headlines that say D'Amico Ryans. No, what was it? No turmoil in an offensive line. Like D'Amico Ryans denies that there was turmoil in offensive line room.
Put it in the newspaper that we had turmoil. On our offensive line.
Offensive and then receiver. They need receiver too because Diggs is gone, and then Tank Dell I don't think is playing this year in any serious capacity. But overall, DK, this is another team like the Texans right now in the first round. They are picking. Oh, wow.
Sorry, they have picked really 25, 58.
Yeah, 25
and 2
and 58.
third-round picks.
Is it fine to just take a quote-unquote tackle that they're going to play at guard at 25?
I think so. And that's, again, this is kind of like the story of this draft. There's a lot of guys that are considered tackles, but some people think maybe they're better at guard. Like Kelvin Banks from Texas is an interesting example of that. He's really athletic. I think he could fit what they want to do on offense. Josh Simmons, who I've mentioned a couple of times already on the show from Ohio State. Hard to kind of nail down how early he will go because the tape was really good.
Sorry, this is Banks?
No, I'm talking about Josh Simmons from Ohio State. Like I said, just kind of hard to tell where he'll go because the tape is really good. He's really, great athlete, good footwork, but he had a patellar injury, and those are pretty hard to predict how serious that's going to be long term.
I feel like I can't take a first round. I can't take the 25th pick in the draft on a guy that was a really good prospect, but I don't think he was like a top 5 tackle prospect who now has a patellar injury.
Right.
Like, what is the history of that being like an awesome?
Right.
I feel like that's
I think
like a
that's
second
what
round
makes him
arbitrage.
so difficult. He could be anywhere from like middle of the first to fall into the second because of that injury. The guy who took over for him at left tackle after Simmons went out was Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. And he's another guy who I think would make a lot of sense for the Texans if they want a guy who can come in and be guard and start right away.
Be a guard
and start right away for them. He has the added bonus where I think he could play tackle in a pinch, but I think his best position is going to be at guard for them. So very good athlete, really high floor. So I think just offensive line would be the smart thing to do because I just don't really know exactly what they're doing with that offensive line.
The Texans need to protect Stroud at all costs.
Yeah.
Last year was a disaster. They had like the most 3rd and longs in the league, and all the other teams near them were terrible. It was like the Browns, Giants, Bears, and then the Texans had the most 3rd and longs. It always felt like Stroud was getting rushed out of the pocket and having to create. It was just always a mess. So they needed. I agree. The receivers aren't great, but first round to me, you have to go offensive lineman.
Yeah, and they'll be able to. I think they're going to get someone. It's just a matter of who. A team that's I also have is 2 degrees away from being the Eagles is the Chargers. And I think the Chargers are a funny team to me because I think that they have not necessarily similar needs, but I do think that they're probably going to end up looking at similar players as some of the Texans. But I look at the Chargers as they need a left guard, but they did a good job because if you want to be close to the Eagles, they signed Mekhi Becton.
Yep.
Mekhi Becton was the right guard for the Eagles. Now he's a Charger. So the Chargers are like halfway there to being the Eagles. They need defensive line. They need defensive tackles. They need defensive pass rushers. Honestly, they need a tight end. Do you guys know the only tight ends on the Chargers roster right now are like
Conklin?
Yeah, it's Tyler Conklin and Will Dissly. Those are the tight ends.
if they don't make any additions at tight end this year, Tyler Conklin is going to be kind of an interesting fantasy.
Yes, he will.
He will be, Craig. So mark my words.
DK, I
will mark them.
Craig's dubious.
They have been marked.
Craig's marking them right now. So for this one, because again, so Jim Harbaugh went and already signed Najee Harris and Mekhi Becton, who were two recruits that he couldn't get at Michigan.
Is Najee Harris going to play guard? That might work.
Dude, you put him at left guard. He could pull. So I went through and I looked at every player in this class that Jim Harbaugh offered a scholarship to at Michigan.
Wow.
Whether they came or not. At the certain positions they need, like the 5-6 positions you think they go first round. And so obviously someone to Michigan. Mason Graham, the defensive tackle, you think won't be gone by then. But otherwise, guys that the Chargers need. Josiah Stewart, who's a pass rusher, who that could be a second-round pick for Michigan. Yeah. Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle. What did Harbaugh say about him? God's gift to football?
He was. Yeah, exactly.
Colston Loveland, a tight end who played for Harbaugh, who he loves. And then you have these Ohio State linemen that you just mentioned, DK, Donovan Jackson and Josh Simmons both got offered by Harbaugh and then went to Ohio State. And Tyler Booker, who you were just talking about, Mr. Can't Test, but is a great interview. So, and then there's also other guys, Josh Connerly Jr. at Oregon, Walter Nolan, defensive tackle. DK, of those guys, of this list, I'll send it to you right now. Look at this list.
Yeah.
Which do you guys think makes the most sense for the Chargers? The Chargers are picking the 22nd. Which of these, if all these guys were available, not Mason Graham, that doesn't count. If all these guys were available at 22, who do you think the Chargers should pick?
Probably Loveland, I think would make a ton of sense for them just because keep adding to the offensive skill group around him, get a little bit of
adding. How about just add?
Sure.
I wouldn't say they've added much.
He's not explosively fast, but he does offer a speed element that they still really need, I think.
Can I quick pause to just what Craig's saying is that we've now done this 3 teams in a row. The Ravens were like, they need a skill group. They used a first-round pick on Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. The Chargers, they did just use first-round picks on Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey. And we're like, man, they don't have anyone.
Wasn't Ladd a second
rounder?
Oh, yeah. All right, but 30, he was the 35th pick.
But it was their second pick, right?
Fair. Fine.
Either way, I think Quentin Johnson, I still don't think he's more of like a role player.
If they don't add a pass catcher in the first 2 rounds, fine. If you want to get a guy in the trenches in the first round, that's fine. If Kenneth Grant's there and you want to just clog up the defensive line with him, that makes sense. Harbaugh, the whole thing makes sense. But if they don't add a pass catcher in the first 2 rounds, I think Justin Herbert should file a grievance with the team for workplace malpractice because this is getting ridiculous.
So, DK, you mentioned Colston Loveland. Our buddy Nate Tice wrote a great piece at Yahoo this week about Loveland versus Tyler Warren, and he was addressing some of the things of like he was saying he actually kind of thought Colston Loveland might be a more traditional inline blocking tight end than Tyler Warren, and actually had an interesting point that Tyler Warren's cool ability to line up everywhere, the versatility of it, versus Colston Loveland kind of lining up more traditionally in a weird way, almost makes Loveland maybe more versatile because he actually has the more like inline skill set and actually might be able to play.
He's going to play.
Basically, he's a better blocker than Tyler Warren. Do you feel that way about Loveland? Like, would you be shocked at all if Loveland actually ends up being drafted a lot higher than Tyler Warren?
Not a lot higher, but it wouldn't surprise me if he goes over Tyler Warren. I think, and I said this, I think for the last couple of months, like I think the hype on Warren is just like a little bit much for me. I really like him. I think he's really good. But when people are talking about him being the next like Kittle, I'm just a little bit like pump your brakes.
That's just a hair thing.
Yeah, I think Loveland is. I remember watching him and being really impressed with how he blocks on the move in terms of like being outside on screenplays. He'll seal a guy off and run him into the sideline, things like that. And he shows flashes. And I got to check out this article by Nate, but he definitely showed flashes of being able to position himself square up and like sustain blocks in line, and I think that's going to be massive at the next level. I like both of them. I have Warren just a little bit higher, and Warren is he's big. He's 6'6", 260, and I think Loveland's a little bit smaller. He's not as filled out in terms of his frame and everything. But I think there's definitely a lot of people that like Loveland more, and it wouldn't be a huge surprise to see him go a little bit earlier. He's definitely a little smoother of an athlete, whereas Warren's like a wild horse, just kind of like running around, running dudes over, breaking tackles, and kind of just doing a little bit of everything. So I think they're pretty different players. But yeah, I have Warren a little higher. It wouldn't surprise me too much to see Loveland go first, though.
Okay, if anyone from FanDuel is listening, please, maybe I would like to create a line here of one, just play over under on players from Michigan that Jim Harbaugh drafts at the Chargers. I also would like just will Harbaugh draft like how many players he offered a scholarship to will the Chargers draft? I would love the over-under. I think the over-under has to be 1.5 for players that Harbaugh offered a scholarship to. So
there's a certain kind of coach that just loves bringing in dudes that he coached before in college, or guys that had good games against him. Coaches love bringing in those guys as well. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, we got to get going on that too. That's the Ohio State.
Like your whole Najee Harris thing. You tried to recruit Najee.
Oh, maybe he won't get the Ohio State guys actually.
Yeah,
because Ohio State couldn't beat him.
That's a good point.
40 chess. Okay,
they're losers. Yeah,
they are. The other team that's 2 degrees away, the Denver Broncos.
Yeah,
who they are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of the AFC, where you go through and you're like, oh, they don't actually need anything. Honestly, the Broncos need a running back, and beyond that, they could take whatever. They could go defensive line or offensive line. I think the Broncos need some quarterback depth, but the Broncos are like a weirdly well-rounded team. DK,
yeah,
what is a running back you want to see on Denver?
Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. He's like the most obvious pick for the Broncos. Makes a lot of sense.
Do you think because the Broncos had the 20th pick, do you think he could fall to 20, Hampton? Is it likely that he's there, you think?
I think it's possible for sure.
Yeah. What about Genty? You think Genty could fall?
Because Boise State is Denver Bronco territory.
You don't think so?
I think it's unlikely Genty's there. Pretty likely that Omarion Hampton is in that range, yeah.
That would be sweet. I mean, I would argue that they also need a wide receiver. Maybe they could get by with this crew of like Cortland Sutton, and they have Devon Vele, who was a good rookie last year, Marvin Mims, and then they brought in Evan Ingram as their tight end. Running back, it's the most clear need of any team without a running back in the league. Like maybe Dallas, but dude, last year they didn't even have two running backs combined for 1,000 yards on Denver. Like they are so desperate. It's actually remarkable how competent the Denver offense was, considering what was going on with rookie Bo Nix, rookie Vele, Cortland Sutton coming off an injury,
right.
Marvin Mims, and then Jaleel McLaughlin and Javonte Williams. That team made the playoffs on offense.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I feel like I've said that 3 times this year. I'm going to ban at the end of the day, but I do think at the end of each season, the most underrated thing in how teams build the next season is how the previous one ended. The Broncos got the doors blown off them by the Bills in the wildcard round. The time of possession in that loss, the Bills had the ball for 42 minutes, and the Broncos had the ball for 18 minutes. Coaches do not forget that when they get bullied. And obviously the Bills are a better team with a better quarterback, but I do think the Broncos and Sean Payton is going to want to go back to like, we need to stop the run and we need to be able to run the ball. I don't know if he takes a running back on day 1 or day 3, but I do think that's going to be the emphasis. And I don't know if the Broncos take a receiver. I know a lot of people want them to, but I'm like, Sean Payton, when he has guys he likes, I mean, this is a guy who
he just rotates them anyway.
Yeah, it's like the Broncos needed receivers 2 years ago, and instead he brought in guys we had never heard of. So, I mean, I think the running game is the emphasis of this draft because last year it was about Bo Nix, and they got Bo Nix to the point where he should have won Rookie of the Year in other seasons.
They should just take Omarion Hampton in round 1 and Tez Johnson in the 3rd or 4th round and call it a day.
That's the Oregon receiver, the little guy.
Yeah, the 156
Bo Nix's brother.
Yeah,
I think I feel like you take him in the 6th. I feel like the Broncos really will actually.
I mean, he might. He might be around for a while just because of his size, but he's good.
I really wish the Broncos weren't in the AFC West because I would be all over them this year as like a huge leap team, but it's kind of terrifying considering who they have to play.
I think the Broncos are a smart bet actually because of the divisional competition. I'm pretty impressed by everything going on there. So I think, and again, they can also just go best player available. They don't really have to do anything.
Yeah. Hampton would be awesome. Like they need a running back and he's so cool. He would be perfect.
He's really explosive. He breaks a ton of tackles. He can carry a lot of volume. He's just like perfect in every way. Kind of like, remember Mark Ingram for the Saints back in the day? The Ingram Kamara combo, I think it was back in the day. Something like that. I could see them kind of trying to recreate that.
Yeah, Jaleel McLaughlin can be his Darren Sproles.
There we go.
All right, teams that are 3 degrees away from me, the Philadelphia Eagles. I have the Cincinnati Bengals here. Obviously, they brought Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and even Mike Gesicki back. And again, it's the beam of just you want to know if this is going to cripple their defense and chance for another Super Bowl window, or do you want to watch Joe Burrow hit some dingers? And it's like, dingers! But yeah, the Bengals.
Sock some dingers.
Bengals out here playing fantasy football.
That should be the team name. Just watch me sock some dingers. TK, Bengals just need defense. I mean, they're also actively antagonizing Trey Hendrickson, which is so funny. Ben Baby at ESPN had this awesome story where at owners meeting, basically the owner of the Cincinnati Bengals was like, "Yeah, Trey Hendrickson should be happy with his contract. We offered him enough. I don't really know why he doesn't like the number we offered him."
Yeah, players love to hear that. It's great. It's the best.
He had a really good
coming
answer
from the
to
school
it.
of Jerry Jones.
Yeah, seriously.
Dude,
I don't even know the name of his agent.
Never heard of him. Trey Hendrickson's answer was actually really good. He was like, look, he had a really eloquent answer of like, I would have took this deal 3 years ago and 2 years ago and 1 year ago. Not my fault. And he was like, I look at it like houses on the street. Houses are going up, inflation going up. I don't know if that's still true. It was like a week ago when he said it. And he's like, it's not my fault. Like that you haven't made me an offer in 3 years. So with that said, DK, Bengals kind of need a defensive end.
Yeah, they need an edge guy. Michael Williams is one that I've definitely circled for them. Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M. These are the two guys that have, freakish athleticism, not quite as much production to back it up. And so there's a chance they could fall there to that range. 17 is where they're picking. And I think both of those guys have a pretty good floor, but then they offer tons of upside as like a elite pass rusher. So that makes a lot of sense to get that one of them there. Mike Green, guy from Marshall, is also an option. He's kind of the opposite. He has an incredible amount of production, but there's question marks over, his level of competition, just overall size and length and all that stuff. So I think those are the three guys that I've circled for them, but they're going to have the opportunity to take a really good defensive end or a really good defensive tackle there. Or
imagine how sick a third receiver could be.
Yeah, get another receiver. The cat's on the wall. Just add Ted McMillan to this offense.
Yeah. Imagine that. They wouldn't even need defense. They'd score 60 points.
Yeah. Best offense is good. No, best defense, good offense.
Right.
Just keep adding receivers. That's what the Eagles would do. Speaking of the Eagles, the other Bengals, they need a linebacker. Bengals fans are like, oh, who's going to play next to Logan Wilson, linebacker? They signed Oren Burks. Guess what? Oren Burks was on the Eagles.
Yep.
Fixed.
There we go.
So they might be now 2 degrees away from being the Eagles.
We should move them up. Other team, I think this was actually, there were 2 teams that were very hard to give a number of how far away they were. Dolphins were really hard. I put them 3 degrees away, which I don't know. It feels like they should be 4 or 2, and I couldn't figure it out. So I put 3. But I feel like the Dolphins.
Okay.
Well, I mean,
that
that's
makes
my
sense.
infallible thought process. Yeah. Don't need to tell people about Tua. Tyreek Hill is upset. The edge rushers are awesome. Dolphins have no defensive tackles. I feel like this is a team that still needs a guard because Liam Eichenberg is not it. Teron Armstead, the left tackle, retired this week. So then you have like Patrick Paul is going to be the left tackle, but that's not like a given. DK, let's say they need a tackle, whether it's an offensive tackle or a defensive tackle or an offensive tackle that becomes a guard. I feel like the Dolphins, again, they need protein. Dolphins are picking kind of high. They have the 13th pick. Who is a guy that you think the Dolphins should grab at that spot?
I mean, I think the dream for the Dolphins is a scenario in which either Will Campbell or Armand Membu falls and is still there at 13, in which case I think they run to the podium, which is there's not actually a podium.
So Will Campbell's, they're kind of, they just call in.
Right.
They just open their phone really quickly.
Metaphor is kind of old and archaic, but that's fine. Just
Will Campbell's T-Rex from LSU, right?
I mean, they both are like 33-inch arms. It's not T-Rex. It's just they're not freakishly long arm guys. I think the best offensive tackle that's available, that's who they got to take. They got to upgrade their offensive line. Offensive line was just a massive problem for them last year. They have holes in a lot of different areas, but I think just in order to maintain their identity and do what they want to do on offense and protect Tua, this should be priority number 1.
So if Will Campbell's arms are 30, well, they were measured at 33 inches at, I don't know, his arms got longer, whatever. Let's go with the combine. Will Campbell's arms are 32 and a half. And if Membu's 33 inches, why aren't people worried about Membu being a guard? Why is it all we hear about with Will Campbell, but we don't hear that about Membu being a guard?
I don't know. It's a good question. It's not fair.
Are you worried about Membu being a tackle?
No, and I'm not really worried about
that half inch
Campbell
makes a big difference, TK.
I'm not worried about either of them, to be honest. I mean, I'm maybe back of my mind a little bit worried, but I think they both move so well and they're so athletic and quick that it'll be okay.
Just have them hang from a pull-up bar for like a week straight. That'll add
stretch them out.
Easy.
Yeah. Membu also played right tackle primarily, whereas Campbell's left tackle. So maybe there's that difference. People don't care quite as much. I don't really understand that though, because especially for the Dolphins, that you need your right tackle to be really good to protect the quote unquote blind side. So you got a left-handed quarterback. Maybe it makes sense for them.
I think Membu would be a steal for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
That would be phenomenal.
Dolphins feel like they're going in the wrong direction, unfortunately. Sorry, Carlos. They do feel like a little Dolphins
just kind of feels like the experiment didn't work.
I mean, Bengals South. Yeah,
they're migrating.
Yeah.
They're just trying to keep the business afloat, you know?
Yeah.
other team I have here is 3 degrees away is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So there you go, Craig. You dish it out, you can take it.
Craig, what's going on with Aaron Rodgers these days?
I think now, so Pat McAfee's doing a live show in Pittsburgh on the 9th, April 9th. And if there's ever a time that Aaron Rodgers is going to take advantage of the limelight to announce his next move, it's going to be with Pat McAfee live on stage in Pittsburgh.
Man, I pay you $1 million a year. Can you please just wait to announce it at my live show?
If it doesn't happen, then I don't think it's going to happen. Honestly,
I can't wait for Aaron Rodgers to walk out to a state. It's in PPG in downtown Pittsburgh in the Penguins hockey arena, and I can't wait for him to walk out to a crowd of like 35,000 people in Pittsburgh and be like, I can't wait to just put the team ahead of myself and get away from the media of New York and just focus on winning, as he just literally does it to a little stadium and just does a fake LeBron decision thing. Do you think he brings hats?
Oh, you think he has like a Vikings hat, a Giants hat, a Steelers hat? And then
I kind of do. I kind of wonder if he does. I kind of wonder if he does.
A gender reveal thing.
And then he has like a big wide brim beach hat as like for retirement, and he's holding the beach hat versus the Steelers hat, and you're like, ooh, and he's like raising the beach hat. Everybody boos. He then raises the Steelers hat. Everybody cheers. He puts it on. I
actually think that or a gender reveal is a perfect idea.
A gender reveal with like black and yellow glitter, something like that, or smoke.
If he shows up and doesn't announce that he's going to the Steelers, he's officially the biggest asshole ever.
Well, Craig, let's just time machine for a second. Craig, he announces he's going to play for the Steelers live at this McAfee live show on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
What is going through your head? What is going through your heart? How do you feel about that?
It's like painful relief. It's like, I'm in less pain, but the pain is still there. It's
like you were constipated and you finally took a shit.
Yeah, but like you still have 2 more. But the first one, it was enough to get you home.
2 more.
Yeah, you made it home without shitting your pants. That's how I feel if we get Aaron Rodgers. We're all talking ourselves into it because we're backed into a corner. So
you're not all talking yourselves into it. There are a lot of Steelers fans that are like, I'd rather have Mason Rudolph for the year.
That actually is ridiculous to me. That's one of the dumber things I've ever heard.
Craig just wants the mystery box. He just wants something different. That's all.
Well, I mean, we know what the Mason Rudolph situation is. Like Cam Hayward being like, we would be happy to have Mason Rudolph. No Steelers fan would be happy to go into this season with Mason Rudolph.
Well, they need a quarterback anyway because Rodgers, even if you sign him, is 41 years old. So DK, if you're looking at the Steelers,
don't give us Jackson Dart. We need plenty other. We need a defensive lineman. We need a cornerback. We need a running back. We do not need Jackson Dart.
Let's say you don't. Yeah, let's say you don't take Jackson Dart. DK, honestly, I wonder if this is also funnily enough, a sneaky running back team, just because your other running backs are Jalen Warden and Kenneth Gainwell at running back. Eagle, there you go. Honestly, the Eagles, the Steelers, we should bump them up over the Dolphins.
2 Eagles.
They have Kenneth Gainwell, and you have Darius Slay at cornerback, and Isaac Seumalo. You signed a guard from the other Eagles team.
Yep.
So you got 3 Eagles.
Yeah, we have 3 guys who were on the Eagles 2 years ago. Not bad.
DK, let's say that the Steelers don't go running back or quarterback, though. Let's say they
go before we do this.
What's the history of the Steelers trading back? Do they do that very often?
Doesn't feel like it. No, I don't think so. They usually just hunker down and take a lineman or a shitty quarterback.
Right.
You're not going to. Would you have projected Jackson Dart to Pittsburgh had I not said anything? Okay.
I think because they gave up a second rounder to get DK Metcalf, I had sort of circled the idea that they maybe trade back and trying to like recoup some of that draft capital to address multiple positions. I kind of just had Kenneth Grant. Huge space eating, really athletic guy that can kind of just eat up blocks and make everything easier for the guys around him. Derek Harmon's another guy we've talked about. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss is a guy that we haven't talked about a ton, but he has some pretty interesting twitch and movement skills and athleticism, just a pass rushing type of defensive tackle. He reminds me of the guy that you guys drafted. Was it last year or 2 years ago? Remind me his name. He's the guy from, why am I blanking? Keanu Benton, sorry.
Yes, which is like we only basically have Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton. We're pretty thin in the middle of the defensive line.
They defensive tackle really badly.
And then maybe a Quinshawn Judkins in the second round, I would like.
That would be solid.
I mean, that would make a lot of sense, yeah. He'd be great for them.
Worst case scenario, we get Aaron Rodgers. Actually, I don't know what the worst case scenario is. The worst case scenario, we don't get Aaron Rodgers and we draft Jackson Dart.
The worst case scenario is you sign Rodgers and he gives everyone on the Steelers measles.
Which honestly could happen. That's very much in play.
That's the worst case scenario.
I'm so desperate, but I all my eggs are in the Aaron Rodgers basket because I don't know where else to put them.
Just carrying them in like your shirt.
Yeah, I have them tucked in my shirt like a kangaroo pouch. But I want Aaron Rodgers. All right, I'll admit it. I want him. I want him to announce it on stage on Wednesday.
Kai and Carlos, can you guys like clip that for like when Craig hates Aaron Rodgers every single week for 17 weeks?
I still maintain that there's really no better other solution. It's like, could we trade for Kirk Cousins?
You could have just paid Justin Fields.
Nah, I don't want that.
Aaron Rodgers was working out with DK Metcalf like a week ago. Yeah, did we talk about this?
He should be skewered for waiting this out. I have all the transparent Rodgers, like me, look at me, attention things. If he signs on this show,
he's such an enigma, man.
Dude,
he's such an enigma.
Hard to figure this guy out. What could he possibly want? I have no idea. Speaking of Justin Fields, though, the New York Jets. I mean,
the Jets. The Jets are just such a funny team.
I think actually their offensive line is up and coming. Like they have Fashanu at left tackle. Like they have solid guys at offensive line. There's pieces on defense. The running back room's good. Breece Hall and Braylon Allen. I have to say though, the Jets do not have one tight end under contract after the season. The only receivers the Jets have under contract after the season are Garrett Wilson and Malachi Corley, who had 3 catches last year and was drafted by an old team. That he's like a gadget player. And like Alan Lazard's on the team, but he's going to get cut. So I actually think the Jets desperately need a pass rusher in a way, a pass catcher. Dude, they have Garrett Wilson and Malachi Corley are the only pass catchers on the team in 2026.
They also signed Josh Reynolds, which flew under the radar. Big signing for them. Tyler Johnson from the Rams. Xavier Gibson he had a little bit of hype last year. Charles Irvin. Man, yeah, they really need depth at the receiver. And tight end, like you said, Jeremy Ruckert, Stone Smart was like their tight end signing in the offseason. It is pretty bleak.
And so I think
but they're not, you know what? They're not going to pass a lot. They're not going to be passing a lot. They're going to be running like 75% of the time.
It's true. They need a right tackle. So, I mean, Carter Warren is their right tackle. You know, I mean, that sounds like a fake name.
What's your favorite Carter Warren play?
I know. So if Membu's there at the 7th pick, I think that would make a lot of sense for the Jets. But DK, do you think the Jets should be taking... do you think the Jets should really pass over like a right tackle or another player and take like a tight end or a receiver? Like if Ted McMillan is there at 7, do you think the Jets should take Ted McMillan or Tyler Warren or?
Yes. I think ultimately you're building the foundation for whoever is the next quarterback for the team in the future. I think there's obviously this chance that Justin Fields turns into the long-term starter for them. The odds are it's probably not going to be the case. Like he'll probably have some exciting games and run a lot and do that kind of thing. But unless he makes a huge jump as a passer, and we just got done talking about how crappy the receiver core is outside of Garrett Wilson, probably not going to happen. I think it's just building the foundation for the team in the future. I think offensive line, Membu makes a ton of sense for them. Again, if Will Campbell falls and he's sitting there, that would be great for them. I think Ted McMillan, even a guy like Matthew Golden, if they really like him, would make sense. Just get some speed and versatility in the receiver core, start building that foundation where you can drop a quarterback in a year or two and you start to have a really good offense.
How good do you want the offensive line to be with Justin Fields? Because if it's too good, then he's going to stay in the pocket and throw it. You know what I mean?
You need it to be bad.
We want him to be flushed out of the pocket.
Yeah, you need one vulnerable tackle to force him to run sometimes. If you draft Ted McMillan, it's like, can he really even support 2 wide receivers throwing the ball? I'm not sure you need that.
No.
Garrett Wilson's enough.
That's smart. Yeah, that's why you have your right tackle bad. So the right tackle, and then that's what Justin Fields just runs.
Yes.
And then there you go. And then that's the offense.
Yeah, honestly.
That's smart. Very similar team. Colts and Anthony Richardson. Honestly, there's similar stuff going on with the Jets and Fields and the Colts and Richardson. All right, I want to play 2 tight ends and a lie with you guys with the Indianapolis Colts.
Ooh.
This edition is called 2 tight ends who had more receiving yards than every Colts tight end combined and a lie. Literally, these are tight ends who had more yards than every Colts tight end combined. And one of these is not true. Tyler Conklin.
Okay. Conklin probably had like
receiving yards than every Colt.
500 yards, maybe.
Will Dissly.
Okay. He's another guy who probably had like 500 yards, 400 yards.
And Craig's middle school nemesis, Austin Hooper.
Hooper did not have many yards last year.
One of these guys did not have... Sorry, 2 of these guys had more yards than all the Colts tight ends.
What team? I don't even remember what team Hooper was on last year.
The Patriots.
Yeah.
Okay.
Behind Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Hooper too. I think Heifetz is throwing me a bone, and finally Austin Hooper has a stat that is negative towards him. So I'm going to go with Hooper.
No,
Austin Hooper had more yards than all of the Colts tight ends last year.
He got another win for Hooper in the Craig versus Hooper book.
As did Will Dissly. The lie is Tyler Conklin, who was like 10 yards off.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Okay. Which was, so we're talking like Mo Alley Cox. What else is going on?
Oh my God, dude. They have
Jelani Woods, who was hurt all
Jelani
year.
Woods, right?
It's a brutal group. So
Drew
I think
Ogletree, Will Mallory, Albert Okuibuno. Wow, they got a whole mashup of random ass tight ends on this team. It's funny because it feels like they've been using a lot of picks, and not like high picks necessarily, but they've been using a lot of resources to bring in guys, and none of them have worked out.
Well, they're using a lot of resource, but like they're using a lot of 5th round picks. They haven't really tried, which is why everyone's kind of mocking the Colts to take the 14th pick tight end.
Yeah, the favorite pick I think is giving them Tyler Warren.
Would you do Loveland or Warren at 14, DK?
Warren.
It's easy.
Man knows what he wants.
For all the things we said before about them. I don't know.
If the Colts decide that like a defensive tackle or an offensive tackle is falling to the Colts and they're like, there's a lot of tight ends, who is a tight end that you think the Colts could get in the second round of this draft where you're like, all right, Colts fans, I know you wanted a tight end. Yeah. Colts pick 45th in the second round. Who is the tight end you think they could grab?
I think there's a couple guys in that area that are really interesting for them. Mason Taylor from LSU, who is Jason Taylor's son.
I like the Mason instead of Jason Taylor Jr. You're just Mason Taylor.
Yeah.
Like my son could be Manny Heifetz.
Elijah Arroyo from Miami is another interesting
Greg
one.
Horlbeck, yeah.
Greg Horlbeck and Manny Heifetz. Elijah Arroyo, what do you like about Elijah Arroyo?
He is a really good athlete, good in space, run after the catch. He tested really well. He's got just like a big frame, very athletic. Kind of just, get him out in space and let him do his thing. I think Mason Taylor is kind of the opposite, where he's like less flashy physically, but just kind of does everything really well. Just sort of a, for lack of a better word, like a lunch pail tight end guy who's just going to like be a solid contributor for you. Terrence Ferguson from Oregon, not much of a blocker, but he's pretty athletic and he can run the seams and he makes some pretty impressive catches, screen plays, things like that. And then Harold Fannin from Bowling Green, who I don't know, I can't get a good
Didn't that guy set a record this year at tight end?
Yeah, he led college football in catches and yards. But he's kind of a tweener in the sense that he's small. He's like 6'3", 245, 250, coming from a lower level of competition in Bowling Green. I think he's kind of stiff and runs weird. So I think there's a little bit of that going on where it's just like, I don't know, how this is going to translate exactly. But he kind of reminds me of a Isaiah Likely a little bit, who was really productive in college and then ended up falling. But then you just get into the NFL and he's a really good receiver, turns out.
DK, between Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren, who has the larger catch radius?
I would probably say Warren. I think technically speaking, Loveland might have a bigger wingspan, but Warren, I mean, if you look on his tape, he's just absolutely fucking mossing people every time you look up.
I would say that should be probably priority number one when going after a pass catcher for whoever Anthony Richardson is throwing to.
There you go.
Because honestly, that's a good point. If Colston Loveland gets open, that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's a really good point, Craig. Yeah. DK, you should have thought of that. What does getting open have to do with anything?
Sorry.
I don't know why you would bring that up.
It's like remember the Panthers when Cam Newton was young? He had, who are the two? Kelvin Benjamin. Yeah. And then they drafted the other guy from Michigan, whose name I'm forgetting. But he was like 6'5" or whatever, 6'4".
Jake Butt? No.
No, as a receiver from Michigan. Hold on.
Well, I'll never forget that Jericho Cotchery was on the Panthers team that really almost won the Super Bowl. It's the most incredible thing about Cam Newton to me. The list of incredible feats. Cam Newton almost made Jericho Cotchery the lead receiver. Devin Funchess. Yeah.
Wow. Unfortunately, he didn't really pan out. No. But the idea at the time, Craig, was Cam Newton is not very accurate. Get him the two biggest receivers we can find. And just throw it in their zip code.
Devin Funchess is 30 currently. You could have told me he's 42.
What? Yeah. That's not. You're wrong. Gemini is wrong. That's not possible.
Wikipedia is 30.
30. What is he? How long has he been out of the league?
That's crazy.
No
Probably
way.
4 years.
Dude, Devin Funchess hasn't played since 2019. He played one game in 2019.
He's out of the league now. We can say Funches.
Funches?
Yeah,
is it Funches? I'm not the pronunciation
It is Funches, but like we don't have to abide by that when he's not even in the league. Funches is, come on, that makes sense.
Dude.
The second Devon Achane retires, it's Achane again.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
All right. Teams that are 5 degrees away, we don't really, this is where you go, really from scalpels to now we're kind of, a lot closer to chainsaws here. Patriots, I mean, they're really leading the clubhouse here. I give the Patriots the highest score in this group because they, one, have the coach, Mike Vrabel. They have the quarterback, Drake May, and they signed Milt Williams, who was on the Eagles. So they're getting closer to the Eagles than these other teams. They paid a lot of money to have an Eagle.
I think the Patriots are closer to winning the Super Bowl than the Colts or the Jets.
I actually weirdly agree, even though they have no good players other than one. They have 3 good players. And one of them, Christian Gonzalez, is a great cornerback. Christian Barmore, I don't know if he'll ever play football again. I don't know if the other, and yet they have more of the ingredients than 5. Teams would switch places with them.
I would put, so you have in this category, these are the last 5 teams. You have the Pats, the Raiders, Titans, and Browns. So I guess just 4 teams. I think the Raiders and the Patriots, I would sooner pick to win the Super Bowl than the Colts or the Jets.
I agree with that.
DK, what do you think?
Yeah, no, of course. Of course the Jets. I don't know about the Colts. Probably the Colts, yeah.
No, you're probably right about that. But yeah, the Patriots, I mean, honestly, the Pats, I think at the end of the day, DK, I think obviously the Patriots, they're picking 4th. And I think the Patriots, it's all Patriots fans just want Shedeur Sanders to go to the Browns. So it could be Cam Ward, Shedeur, and the Patriots could have Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter go to them. Let's just say for a moment that happens.
Mm-hmm.
And the Patriots are like, all right, well, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are too good to pass up on. I know we have this, but who is the offensive lineman you think? Actually, no, we already talked about that. Fuck that. Let's say it's the opposite. The Browns take Abdul Carter and the Giants take Travis Hunter. So now the Patriots have to kind of take it. Maybe they take an offensive lineman 4th, defensive lineman. Who do you think the Patriots should take in the 4th pick if Hunter and Carter are gone? Do you think they go for reach, quote unquote, for an offensive lineman like Will Campbell, or do you think that they take someone else?
That's a really good question. I personally would take a guy like Ted McMillan.
You would take Ted McMillan 4th?
Sure.
I love that DK's holding strong with me on Ted. Ted's all over the place. He's dropping. He's not even a top 2 receiver for some analysts out there.
Top 3.
Me and DK are holding strong.
Yeah. I think you have the problem with that spot and the I guess, the issue that the Patriots will have at that situation is there's not going to be anybody teams are going to be desperate to trade up for. So they might just have to sit there and pick. Mason Graham, they just signed, what's his name?
Milton
Williams. They might not look at the defensive tackle spot. Plus, defensive tackle traditionally is not a super premium position that goes that high. Running back, again, same deal. Will Campbell, questions about his arm length, questions about whether he's going to be a tackle or a guard. And I'm just looking at some of my top 10 guys. Jalen Walker, he's kind of a tweener. Armand Membu, same deal, right tackle with short arms. There's just question marks about all these guys. And I personally think, even though people have question marks with Ted McMillan, I'm like, they desperately need a receiver. It would be giving Drake May some help on the receiver core, just in overall and just offense in general, continuing to build that around him. So I don't know. I think it makes sense. He's big, super productive, strong, run after catch. I mean,
he's different than
if he
all the
goes
guys
to the
that
Patriots, he probably
have right
will
now.
be. If he goes to the Patriots, he probably will be a bust. But let's be honest.
Oh, why? I feel like
the Patriots are a fucking cursed franchise for receivers.
But
drafted receivers.
If he goes to the Jets or something like that, I feel like he's worse off. At least he'll have he'll be the guy with
kidding.
Drake May.
I'm mostly kidding, just because the Patriots fucking just absolutely suck at picking receivers in the draft. But yeah, I think it makes sense. That's personally what I would do, but we'll see.
Yeah, the Patriots need a bunch of stuff, and there's no team that needs Shedeur Sanders to be a Brown other than the Browns. I think the Patriots might need it more than Browns fans want it, honestly. So I don't think the Patriots want to be in that spot. So
the dream pick there is Travis Hunter, though, right?
Yeah, definitely, because you need a cornerback and a receiver. He would be perfect for New England.
Yeah.
Another team that's 5 degrees away, Raiders, who they've had the best vibes of any team this offseason, like Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and Tom Brady running
adults
the team, Geno
room.
Smith trade, adults in the room. They need a running back. The running backs on the Raiders right now are Raheem Mostert, Sincere McCormick, Zamir White, and Dylan Laube.
Mm-hmm.
dead last in yards per carry this season. Let's say who do you think is a running back the Raiders could get, let's say day 2, day 3, that you'd be like excited about? I don't think the Raiders are going to take Genty at 6 unless you guys think that they will.
I mean, I think there's a chance they do. But yeah, probably not. I think Judkins makes a ton of sense for them because he played for Chip Kelly last year.
AK, the guy on the cover of College Football 25.
Right. Caleb Johnson from Iowa, depending on what kind of offense they're planning on running.
The Judkins thing makes sense. How do you feel about, because you've been talking about Travion Henderson a lot. Where are you on Judkins? Because you have Judkins 60th. You have Travion Henderson like a top 33 player on your board. You have Judkins 60th. So
I think Judkins is good. He's like a solid, early down guy, breaks tackles, has some good lateral burst. His testing at the combine was ridiculous. Like, he was one of the best running back athletes according to the RAS score, in history since they've been tracking it. He's really explosive.
You compared him to Kareem Hunt in the draft guide.
Yeah, he's just like I'd say a rugged early down back who breaks tackles, can kind of be the engine of the offense. I think that's exactly what Pete Carroll wants the running back to be. He's he can create on his own. I don't think he's like a superstar talent, but he would be a really good starter for them. He's better than anybody they got right now.
That makes a lot of sense. And also Judkins, his spin move in the first version of College Football 25 was so powerful, they had to nerf it. They had to like artificially reduce his stamina after using a spin move because it worked too well in the game. No one was allowed to use Ohio State.
Two other guys I think Carroll would like, Damian Martinez from Miami, who is just big, physical. If you pulled up some of his coolest plays, I think you'd think he was a first runner because he's just trucking dudes in the open field. And he has really quick feet for being so big. And then Cam Skattebo, Skattebo, I should say, from Arizona State, who, I don't know, he's just really elusive, breaks a million tackles, kind of does it all. He's good in the passing game. I could see them being interested in him as well, maybe in the 3rd round.
Another team that's very far away, the Tennessee Titans, obviously need a quarterback, probably going to take Cam Ward out of Miami with the first pick. I think when the Titans come back around in the 2nd round, DK, I think the Titans need a receiver really bad. They don't have the first pick of the 2nd round. They have the 3rd pick of the 2nd round. But if you look at the skill players for Tennessee, it's Calvin Ridley, Treylon Burks, drafted by the previous regime and got fired,
right.
Van Jefferson. That's who's like starting for Tennessee. Who do you think is a receiver Tennessee could use 35th? Because I mean, that's
brutal.
That's about as bad as it gets.
Do you think Emeka Egbuka is going to be a 1st round pick? Because if he falls into the 2nd, I think he would be great for them. Just
like there's a lot of buzz surrounding him lately. I feel like he is trending towards the 1st round.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then Luther Burden kind of feels like he's going the other way, Craig, a little bit. But I think he's, another guy that you can get involved in the screen game. I think there's a ton of meat on the bone in terms of what he can do down the field. They didn't do a ton of it this last year, but he has the physical traits to do everything that you want to do down the field as well. He's really good on like slot fades. He can hit explosive plays. So I think Luther Burden, if he falls, would be a good choice for them. Jalen Knoll from Iowa State, I think is a really fun, interesting player. Super explosive, gets open, works the middle of the field. Elic Iomanor from Stanford, Craig, our guy, who is just a big X receiver, wins on slants, can, run after the catch, big physical guy. I think there's some question marks about his hands, but if he can kind of improve in that area, I think it's like your hands and drops and everything in college is one thing where I'm like, part of me, you shouldn't pay that much attention to it because guys can get better at it. And part of me is like, that could be a fatal flaw. He just keeps dropping passes. It's like the Quentin Johnston question. How is he going to do at the next level? But I do like Iomanor, and he has so many plays where he just goes over guys and like takes it away from them, including Travis Hunter, that I believe he can get better in that area. Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, Knowles' teammate, another big guy who's really fast, really explosive. There's a million receivers in that 2nd round, 3rd round area that I like. I think that could make a lot of sense.
And then the Browns, Browns quietly need a lot. Like, they need a quarterback, even though they have Deshaun Watson, who basically is like a ghost at this point. Browns need a quarterback. Also need a running back. Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong are the only running backs on the Browns roster. Nick Chubb is a free agent. The offensive line, they're both starting guards and the center are free agents after this season. And I kind of wonder if Joel Bitonio is going to retire after the season. Receiver, it's Jerry Jeudy and Cedric Tillman. Elijah Moore's a free agent. Like, the whole offense, actually, a lot of turmoil there. And then the defense is, better. But I think this is an offense draft for Cleveland. DK, would you rather, do you think the Browns should take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter with the number 2 pick and like trade for Kirk Cousins?
Yes.
Over taking Shedeur Sanders number 2?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter are elite blue chip players, and I don't think Shedeur Sanders is. I understand the value question in terms of like quarterback is the most important thing. But if you're including Kirk Cousins in this equation and it actually is reasonable and realistic that will happen, I could see that. It's so funny though, because it's like, are we going to really go with the 2 Achilles guys?
Yeah, let's say the Browns give up the 94th pick. It's the end of the 3rd round. They give up, it's Buffalo's 3rd rounder. They give
Man,
up the
they're going to
94th
have to give
pick
up that much for Kirk Cousins?
Well, let's say, why, fine, 104, the 4th rounder.
Okay. I think that's worth it, yeah.
That's 10 spots. That's I guess one starts with 100 and one doesn't. That really does.
Also, the nature versus nurture element of dropping Shedeur into Cleveland versus like him falling and getting picked to a decent team. It feels like the biggest difference for him, that if he is on a team that has like a little bit of a supporting cast and an offensive line and a consistent coaching situation, that could go a long way for him rather than showing up on this Browns team that is completely, destroyed right now, it seems like.
We've been talking about the Myles Garrett thing, the interview he had where he was like, I'm comfortable with what the team is doing at quarterback. Of course, that could be a total red herring, and he just decided to stay because he's getting $40 million a year.
That's the answer. We put way too much emphasis on what like one player says one time in an interview.
I think that
could
fair.
mean nothing.
What I wanted to bring up, though, here was I've been listening to Greg Rosenthal on the NFL Daily podcast, and he seems to think Kirk Cousins is like what Myles Garrett was talking about. So I think that's really interesting because my initial impression was like, oh, they're taking Shedeur, and that's who the answer is. But we could see, from left field, Kirk Cousins come in and just be a starter. He's played with what's his face?
Kevin Stefanski
before. The offense fits him. Again, and like Craig, you said it perfectly. And Heifetz, as you were sort of explaining the things they need, the offensive linemen, the skill players, the running backs, I'm like, this is not a team that's really set up well to just drop a rookie quarterback in and like succeed right away, especially in Cleveland.
And so what, we think that the Browns then, if they wanted to make this trade for Kirk Cousins, you hold on to that so you have leverage with the second pick. And the idea that the possibility of you taking Shedeur second still gives you the leverage to like trade out of that and then go get Kirk. Or I guess you just take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter and then trade for Kirk. But either way, you have options.
I just think you take one of the blue chip players and go from there. You're not a team that's like a quarterback away right now.
It's also like these guys like if you take, fair or not, you take Shedeur and like the clock starts. And so on one hand, if you're really on thin ice, sometimes guys will take, and again, I'm not accusing anyone of just doing stuff to protect their job, but like if you do take Shedeur, you're now tied to Shedeur. Like if Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry take Shedeur, you might not get to take another one. So if you're like, damn, we could take Abdul Carter and like that's a really defensible thing and then come back
by
and
yourselves
get a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that at the end of the day, like if you have Myles Garrett and you have Abdul Carter, that can fix a lot of other things for you. You kind of bootstrap everything else. That's every team in the AFC. The team I come away with just being most impressed by is actually Denver.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I'm still in awe looking back last year, how good their defense played and how little impressive players they have on offense. And yet they were extremely competent, made the playoffs, got their doors blown off. But you remember first drive of that game, 7-0.
Oh, yeah.
Austin reminds me, we forgot about the Jacksonville Jaguars, which is so fitting.
Classic.
Perfect. Classic. Spoiler alert. They need everything.
Yeah.
They need defense. They need defensive tackle. They need outside cornerback. They need safeties. They signed safeties. They still need safeties. They kind of need everything. And then that's assuming that they like what they have on offense, like a bunch of positions.
Where did we miss them? Were they in this group or did we miss them a long time ago?
They were near the Jets. I went from the Steelers to the Jets and I forgot them because of the field.
You really
the Jags, I have them as 4 degrees away because you have Trevor Lawrence and I believe in Liam Cohen. We'll see about Doogie Howser, the GM, who's like 11 years old. But I do kind of wonder, the free agency board seems like they use Trent Baalke's board. I wonder what they do with the draft board. But the Jags, they just need defense. And again, I think they need Mason Graham because they just need a defensive tackle. I think cornerback or defensive tackle is what's going to align with them. Maybe they trade back. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But Jags, I think, miss a Mason Graham team. Okay. The other thing we have to get to here is we have some emails. 2 IPAs and a lie.
Can't wait. Hit me.
Okay. So we asked people to email in 2 IPAs and a lie.
And did they provide the fake IPA?
Yes.
Okay.
You think I made up the fake IPAs?
I don't know.
Well, I didn't.
Okay.
All right. This one is from Callum.
All
right. 2 IPAs and a lie. Blood of Cthulhu Stout.
That's not an IPA. But that's fine.
What do you mean
Whatever.
it's not an IPA? Oh,
It's
fuck.
a
Stout.
Oh,
I don't give a shit. It's
that's a good
just funny.
point.
It's literally the first one, but okay.
Over my dad bod Pilsner. Also not an IPA to your point.
It's okay. Beer. It counts.
Juicy ass IPA.
Juicy ass.
Juicy ass is definitely real because juice is always
Juicy-
associated with IPAs.
Yeah.
I think over my dad bod Pilsner is fake.
Say the first one again. What was it?
Blood of
of
Cthulhu.
Cthulhu.
That's got to be a thing.
Blood of Cthulhu.
I'll say the over my dad bod.
I'm gonna go with Blood of Cthulhu is fake.
You think Blood of Cthulhu is fake?
Sure.
You don't believe in Cthulhu?
Sure.
I think there's a lot of dad bod humor with beer as well, so I feel like that makes sense.
I feel like when you're drinking beer, you don't want to be associated with a dad bod. That makes me not want to drink beer.
Dad bods are sought after now, DK.
Oh, sweet.
Damn, you gotta
Oh my
get back out
God.
there.
Motherfucker tricked us. They're all real.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Fuck
Oh,
it.
come
Callum.
Callum.
Dad, what is it? The dad bod one?
Yeah,
Over my dad
Blood
bod?
of Cthulhu. God damn it, Callum. He said in another one, he ruined the other one too, because the other one he had was Aggressive Jazz Hands, IPA, and Thirsty Beaver Amber Ale. Now I realize that those are real too. Thirsty Beaver and Aggressive Jazz Hands.
Who is Cthulhu a character from a book? Who's Cthulhu?
I
It's
think
like a
Cthulhu-
mythical creature deep
it's
in
like
the
a-
sea.
Is it like it's like a kraken?
Oh, okay. A
I don't know
giant
what Cthulhu
tentacle man.
derives from. A fictional cosmic entity by H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh. Okay.
Did he start a cult or was he just a writer?
Did he start a religion?
No, that was the what's his face.
That's L. Ron Hubbard.
Best rap lyric of all
What's
time.
his
Pusha
face?
T. The L. Ron Hubbard of the cupboard.
But L. Ron Hubbard was a science fiction writer, so I see your point.
Okay, we got other ones
okay.
here.
Hit me with more.
H.P. Lovecraft? That sounds more like a guy who would start a religion and cult.
It does.
The
All
Lovecraft.
right, this is from Luke.
Sea Org.
Luke says, I couldn't choose, so I put 4 IPAs in a lie.
Okay.
Gasoline Rainbows.
Perfect.
Gamma Knife,
Gamma Knife.
which could also be a work platform.
Yeah.
Attack of the Space Cats. That feels real.
Yep.
Tears in the Hop Stream. Wizard Burial Ground.
Good Lord.
One more time. Run through them quick.
Gasoline Rainbows, Gamma Knife, Attack of the Space Cats, Tears in the Hop Stream, Wizard Burial Ground.
This is why I don't drink IPAs anymore.
Seriously.
I think
The
I think-
IBUs are 1,000. Like, all right.
I think
I think one of
thing
the
is,
first-
you can ship beer efficiently now. You don't need all that hops.
What's the second one, Heifetz?
Gamma Knife.
That
I
one.
think Gamma Knife's a work platform.
Yeah, I think Gamma
yeah,
Knife's fake.
yeah. That'd be a good twist
The answer
of
is
the knife.
Tears in the Hop Stream.
Damn it.
Tears
Damn it.
in the hop stream.
Maybe it's Tears in the Hop Stream.
That's a pretty good name. Whoever came up with it.
That's dude. Gamma. That's unbelievable. All right, we got a few more here. Big Doinks. The Fell Omen.
Ooh, I like that.
Dorothy Mantooth. And Nose Hairbender. No one actually names
Dorothy Mantooth is
an
fake.
IPA Dorothy Man. That's actually a good name for a beer. Dorothy Mantooth's a saint.
Dorothy Mantooth's a saint. I wouldn't put it past these microbrewers out there.
I know, true.
What was the last
I'm
one?
I think
gonna
Nose
smash
Hairbender
your
has to be
face
fake.
into a car windshield and then take Dorothy Mantooth.
I think
out
Nose
on a
Hairbender's real.
date.
What's the first two? What were the first
Big
two?
Doinks and the Fell Omen.
Jesus. Big Doinks? Is Big Doinks real?
Fake.
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
I'm going to go Big Doinks is
I
fake.
said Nose Hairbender. The answer is the Fell Omen is a boss in Elden Ring.
Hmm. It did sound somewhat like a
That
fantasy
makes more
thing.
sense now.
That's outside my lane.
Okay. This one here is from Austin.
Austin.
Austin's in this Riverside. He texted me.
Mm.
Let's see here. Hop Foo with an exclamation point.
Okay.
Weekend Vibes
Okay.
and Velvet Stone.
I'm all about drinking weekend vibes.
Yeah. 400 calories a bottle. 9.3.
10.7%.
You're drinking mud.
Oh, man.
You have one of those, your day's ruined. You have two, you can't drive home. I'm going to go with, God, I mean, there has to be 1,000 beers out there called Weekend Vibes, I would imagine, right?
Weekend Vibes, Hop Fu, and Velvet Stone. Weekend Vibes is like, if you thought it was, you made it up, it's real.
Velvet Stone is fake.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
Yeah, Velvet Stone's the fake. Austin, terrible job. Sorry.
Wow.
Awful.
We saw right through you.
You got to go harder with it's like Destroyer of Worlds, triple IPA.
Yeah. Sorry, he's not a liar by nature. You know, Austin just, he's too honest. I will say, I kind of like 2 IPAs and like a video game character. That's also kind of fun. Yeah, 2 IPAs good. And whatever. The more IPAs that lie, please email us ringer.fantasyfootball@gmail.com.
The Death by Fire Milk Stout.
Milk Stout. What's a milk stout?
That's a real thing.
Really?
Yeah, there used to be a brewery in San Diego, Left Hand Brewery. I used to drink milk stout.
Milk stout?
College.
Good God.
I saw
just it's like a meal substitute?
Yeah.
Drinking a milk stout.
Milk stout sounds like the way you would break down Derek Harmon's game. Love the way he sits love the way he eats space. It's like a milk stout.
It's just a milk
stout. It's why I love Guinness. Guinness is a stout, but it's like 4.2%. It's a Coors Light.
It's creamy. It's
creamy.
Smooth. It goes down smooth.
Makes your belly feel good. And your brain.
Free advertising. Craig, I feel completely the same.
It's good for the soul.
That should be the new
old Guinness.
Guinness is good for you.
Yeah, all the ad slogans is all about how like Guinness is medicinal. I love it.
That should be, you should, instead of Post Malone doing Bud Light, you should do the Guinness commercial. It's like,
makes
my belly feel good. Makes my brain feel good.
Makes my belly feel good. Makes my brain feel good.
I now want to launch an IPA.
Brain feel good.
Just so we can put on the can, makes my brain feel good.
we also got a lot of emails about.
It's like the first time you got drunk. I don't know. My brain feels good.
I can't feel my legs. We got a lot of emails about how splitting the G has been a thing in Ireland.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's surprising. Nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, surprising. I don't know if that's the word, but
so a bunch of like white bros who went to Arizona State did not invent it.
Yeah, it turns out.
Yeah.
That is not, I was not expecting that.
All right. A lot of emails on washing our hands. Do we want to go through? You want to save these for next episode or?
Are they good?
Let me go through. Let me go through a couple.
Yeah. Give me a couple good ones.
So this one's
Give me
from
one
Jake.
of them big ones.
Give me one of them big ones.
So this one's from Jake.
Jakey.
Again, we were talking last week about someone emailed in last week about someone in their office.
Jake.
I don't know, Jake.
God damn it.
Jake Sawyer. Jacob.
Jake.
Ironically, oh no, that's a different one. Someone else goes. Let's read a different email now. No. Jake says, I'm a commercial carpenter. I build schools and high rises. I do a lot of layout.
That's a wide range of things.
I know. He says, basically, a lot of crawling around on the floor with no gloves to make marks and snap lines for walls. It's disgusting. Every time I go to eat or leave, I cover myself up to my elbows in hand sanitizer or scrub wash my hands. I'm not nasty. But there are others who do the same job and never wash their hands the entire day.
Yeah.
And Jake says, the amount of grown men old enough to be my dad, who I have watched eat tuna sandwiches with their hands that are black from chalk and have been crawling through dirt, concrete dust, muddy boot prints, and the occasional dip spit all day is beyond disgusting, not to mention that they've been using a porta potty at least once a day.
You know what, though? Those guys are going to live forever.
Their gut biome is probably fucking
steel trap in there.
Yeah, it's true.
They're either either borderline septic or their gut biome is fucking kicking ass. There's no middle ground.
You know, we always ask people like turn 100, like, how did you, what's your secret? And they always just like say, never drink or drink every day. There's no in between. But we should ask them how much they wash their hands.
Yeah, that's the key. Is you're just constantly introducing bacteria to your body at such an alarming rate that you turn into a mutant.
The other one, this email's from Troy.
Troy.
And the impetus of this is people emailed in last week about a guy in their office doesn't wash hands. And Troy says, there are guys who wash their hands and guys who don't. But there's a third category of dudes that I find more disturbing. And Troy writes that this group of dudes turns on the water, wets their hand for 2 seconds, then turns off the water, no soap, just wet hands. And then they go back, they touch the faucet, paper towels, door handle, wet, germ hands. And I don't understand what they're trying to accomplish.
Germ hands.
Does part of them subconsciously know they should wash their hands? but at the same time, they just hate the idea of it, so they half-ass it. I would honestly prefer they don't wash their hands.
It's the mental checklist. I think it's one, public perception, and two, it's like the mental checklist of I washed my hands because I got them wet is enough.
I think these are people who this is, it's political correctness. It's the people who privately agree with the people who don't wash their hands, but are too afraid to be the guy at the office who doesn't wash their fucking hands.
You can't be the
So they go through the
trailblazer.
charade of they piss, they wash their hands fake and leave because they don't want to not wash their hands, but they also, if they were alone, wouldn't do it.
Yeah. I always do that when I'm like cooking in the kitchen. Like every time I add an ingredient or something, I always am just like doing like the tiniest little mini wash. You know how you do that?
Yeah.
Probably do that 15 times when I'm preparing food.
Yeah. That's
It's
why
like
we're
a
going to
nervous
die young.
tick at this point. Yeah.
We're going to die.
Right.
Yeah.
I got to start just like picking up gum off the street, chewing it. That'll make me live forever. That's the real
That's a good
medicine.
idea.
Yeah.
Last one here is someone was watching a Red Sox game this weekend and they pulled up a list of like walks per at bat. And one of the guys on the list was Stuffy McAnus.
I'm sure it's not McAnus.
Well, it's McAinnis. How would you pronounce it? This is Stuffy McAnus.
Sounds right to me. Oh, wait, no, it's two
Mackinus.
ends. It's Stuffy McInnis. Two ends.
Oh, Stuffy McGinnis. Either way, his name's Stuffy.
It's not McAnus.
McAnnis? No? Oh.
It's McGinnis. He's splitting the G.
This man is
the G.
named Stuffy McGinnis. He's from Gloucester, Mass. If that's how you say it.
He was part of the $100,000 infield.
He was born in
Wikipedia says.
1890.
Do you guys ever think
This man
that
never washed his hands a day in his life, and he lived to be a ripe old age of 38.
McGinnis gained his nickname as a youngster in the Boston suburban leagues, where his spectacular playing brought shouts of, "That's the stuff, kid."
Unbelievable.
There's no way that's real.
That's in the first paragraph of his Wikipedia. Is so many people said "That's the stuff, kid" to him that they started calling him Stuffy.
What?
DK, can you believe you wrote this entire scouting report at NFLDraft.TheRinger.com and you never at any point said this kid's got the stuff?
This kid's got the stuff. That's the stuff, kid.
Tyler Warren, you got the stuff, kid. He's
Man,
got moxie.
Did you know he used to manage the Salem Witches, which was a minor league team in the 20s?
Isn't it still the name of the Salem team? That's a great name for a baseball team.
I don't know if it says
I'm so dumb. I Googled Salem. You ever Google something? I Googled Salem Witches expecting a baseball team to come up.
Whatever this iteration is of this team disbanded by 1930. I don't know if they like continued it for another, if a different team took that name.
Wait, the high school in Salem, their nickname is the Witches, which is
their official mascot is the Witches?
Yeah, that's got to be one of the best. Oh, no. Salem Witches is the New England League. There's a lot of like Cape Cod leagues. There's a lot of like sub.
Yeah.
That would make more sense. But if Salem High School's name was the Witches, that would be up there with like top tier high school mascots, like the best one. That's pretty sick. Well, no one cared about that.
Too soon?
I'm going to end the episode now. Yeah, too soon. Thank you, DK. Thank you, Craig. Thank you also. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, everyone. Email us in more. 2 IPAs and a lie. It could be beers, whatever.
Thank you, Stuffy.
Thank you, Stuffy. Email us in.
McAnus.
What was the other one? Oh, email us more hand washing stuff. It's been really funny. Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you, Ozzy Osbourne, a.k.a. Black Sabbath.
Yeah, never really crossed my path.
Do you think he washed
Did
his
you watch
hands after he ate the bat?
The show? The Osbournes?
No, I mean, like here and there, I've seen the crazy moments of like Sharon and Ozzy being nuts, but no.
Do you think when Ozzy Osbourne ate the bat, do you think he washed his hands?
Yeah.
Definitely not.
Well, I think when he ate it, he was like, "Oh fuck, that was a real bat."
Did he eat it? I thought he just ripped its head off.
He chewed its head off or ripped its head off with his mouth.
He spit it out like that.
And he was like,
better.
"Oh fuck, that was a real bat."
Wait, you thought it was a fake bat? Is that why he did
Something like that, yeah.
Dude.
That's what I read. I don't know if that's true or not.
Drugs are wild.
Dude, it's like the White Lotus. Where everyone's like, what's he doing that for? I'm like, I think it's the drugs.
I have not seen the finale. So
he ate the bat's head off in 82, guys. That was the year I was born. Great year.
Do you think you were the bat reincarnated?
Maybe.
You can't rule it out.
I cannot rule it out.
Do you think you're reincarnated like that shot in White Lotus? Do you think you're like...
Spoiler
sorry.
alert.
Wait,
Jesus Christ.
What did I just fucking tell you?
Oh, sorry. My bad. Whoops. We can just edit it out.
I don't care. Yeah, we'll have to edit it out for all the people that we care about listening, but for me, I'm screwed.
Oh, yeah. Well,
whoops.
Maybe he's the bat.
Whoops.
I don't know.
I literally a minute ago said, I haven't seen it, so don't spoil it. And he goes, okay.
Look.
And then he said,
man.
whoops. Oh, my God. Did I do that?
All right. Well, now I don't need to watch it, so it's fine.
There
It
you
saves
go.
me
It's
90
easy.
minutes.
There you go. You're welcome.
Saves me whatever incestual scene is going to take place.
God, what? I haven't seen the show at all.
Oh my God. You should watch it with your brother.
Why is incest such a big thing in TV shows these days? We need to stop that shit.
What else is it happening in? Thrones?
Game of Thrones. I watched this silly show called Shetland, and there was like a whole season of
Shetland, like the ponies?
Yeah, Shetland like the islands, which is where the ponies are from.
The Shetlands are islands, and that's where the ponies are from?
Yeah, they're islands, like they're part of Scotland.
Look at Heifetz trying to change the subject because he's embarrassed that he ruined my day.
Whoops.
Yikes. Zoinks.
All right. Favorite Ozzy Osbourne song? Go.
Crazy Train.
I think the Patriots ruined Crazy Train for me, to be honest.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah,
I liked it better before all the Super Bowls.
Yeah, that's fair.
I honestly don't know a lot.
That's the only Ozzy song I know. What's the most famous Black Sabbath song?
War Pigs.
Oh,
I don't know how that goes. Maybe I would.
It was in Guitar Hero, I think.
Yeah.
I like that that's how we know it. It's probably disgusting to so many people listening.
So honestly, probably where I learned Freebird.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I went to Florida for the bachelor party and we just like found a Freebird remix of just the guitar solo over at EDM. It was incredible.
Those are honestly the best EDM songs, is grabbing some like cherished, famous song from the 80s or 90s and like speeding up the beats per minute. I know that's like the most sacrilegious thing ever, but every once in a while you hear Kygo remix a Tina Turner song and you're like, this is it. No, nobody agrees. Okay.
No, well, did you see Two Friends put it at the 25th one?
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had a 25th, whatever they're called, remix or
Craig,
whatever.
I was looking up the lyrics to War Pig. Sorry.
Sorry.
General.
So why did he eat the bat? He was just high. He was just high.
Just like witches at black masses and witches. Speaking of,
all comes back around to
there we
Stuffy.
go.
All right.
If we had a brewery, I think our bit would be to name every beer after an old baseball player.
Oh, that's really good. Like there's the Cloyce, there's the Stuffy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
We'd have the Stuffy McGinnis.
The Stuffy McGinnis.
Oh,
yeah.
I like this.
Yeah.
Might get sued.
We'd have like the Milt Plum Ale or something. It'd be like a fruity ale.
Oh, that's good.
What's the milk stout, Craig?
I don't know, but we will have
some
a
white
stout.
guy. There's definitely some white baseball player back in the day called Milky.
Yeah, that's actually so true. Like Milky Higgins from
Wait, I'm going to do a
1904.
baseball reference right now and just type in Milky.
Baseball player nickname Milky.
Well, Melky Cabrera.
Oh, Milky. Well,
that's true.
But he's not old enough.
Herbert Perry was nicknamed the Milkman. Oh, he played in the 90s.
The
Milkman.
Milwaukee Milkmen were an independent baseball team in Franklin, Wisconsin.
Wait, Zach Gallen is nicknamed the Milkman? He's a current pitcher. He's pitching today.
Gallen.
Zach Gallen's pitching today.
Gallon of milk.
Because his name's Gallen. That took me a minute. That's incredible.
Craig, Austin just sent forward this thing from Urban Dictionary. The Milky Higgins is when a person attempts to drink a gallon of milk in a half an hour.
No, that's the Andy Benoit.
Did you know that, or was that just a fucking coincidence?
I just made that up.
Oh my God, a Milky Higgins.
Tries to drink a gallon of milk in a half hour. Isn't that like a guaranteed puke?
Oh yeah. You're not going to feel great after that.
That's been a challenge. That was like the original cinnamon challenge. Is like,
yeah.
I mean, the first thing I learned as a young boy was that you cannot chug a gallon of milk and keep it down.
Yeah.
Did not know it had a name.
Milky Higgins.
Why is it called that?
I don't know. Being on Urban Dictionary, I thought it would have been something worse.
That's fair. Yeah, don't look. There's a couple,
especially when the word milky is involved.
Yeah, there's a couple things that you should avoid on Urban Dictionary. A couple phrases that have stuck in my brain for a long time that I learned in college. I'll never forget.
Yeah,
much like the White Lotus spoiler that I'll never forget.
Yeah. Well.
Whoops.
Goodbye, everyone.